Adat Netzer Yisra'il presenta Yisra'il TV, Canal 26.7, Los Ángeles, California, uniendo pueblos. Yisra'il TV, Canal 26.7, Los Ángeles, California, uniendo pueblos. Adat Netzer Yisra'il presenta
Shalom, shalom. Soy Moreh Rapha'Yah. Welcome again for this live conference. Today's chat, I could call it, or about the Torah calendar. And today is very important because today marks something very important. It's a very important topic that we all should pay attention to it because it relates to all of us. How can we know the timing and the seasons that our Creator Yahweh Sabaoth has appointed since the beginning of time? So welcome to all of you. Today's topic, if we can see it, it's the Luah HaTorah, the Torah calendar, and the key points. How can we understand it? How can we tell the times and the seasons that the Creator has appointed since the very beginning of time? It's very important for us to understand because today so many calendars out there, so much confusion about what is what. But when it comes to the real deal, the real McCoy, as we call it, we have to understand that I hear a lot of excuses about a lot of people that I hear. Let me just give you a few. A lot of people that I've talked, they say we just believe it and just leave it as that. Just believe what our Jewish brothers said and let's leave it as that. Some other excuses like until the Mashiach comes, then he'll tell us the right time. And many excuses like that. And I said to myself, so what's the Torah for then? What do we have the Torah for? We just have it. It was written for nothing. The Creator said, "These are my appointed times." So it is very vital that we stand in two paths here: in the Creator's path, which is the Torah, in the man's path, which is it could be so many deceivers out there that they trying to make up something along the way, but it's not according to the Torah. It's not according to what is written there in the scriptures on the text itself. So we have to be very, very careful. We have to be very a steward in what we have believed in the Torah, and we have to stick with it. We have to be sort of like the salmon, go against the stream. Because today there is a lot of, when it comes to like Messianics and also in the Jewish community, those two, the Messianics, because they come from the Christians, they go into the other side, which is our Jewish brothers, and they follow basically the same thing as they follow. Instead of following, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that are good, very good, but it doesn't mean that everything is Torah. So we have to be very careful, balance things up. Where is the truth? Where is the emet that the Creator has given us? And it's right there in front of us. It's the Torah. So we have to be very careful when it comes to these things. Today's topic is the Luah HaTorah, the key points, the Torah calendar, the key points to understand it. How can we understand the Torah calendar? And we're gonna bring some things that are new that we have not brought before, so we have better understanding. We also gonna bring a context on the scriptures, on the Torah, not man-made, but in the Torah, what the context, what the text means to us. How can we understand it? How can we be sure about these things? Remember this, that the entire scriptures talks about constellation. That's the story of mankind, the redemption of mankind. It's basically written on the in the Shemai, in the heavens. So we can see so many things in the scriptures, so many things that it's unbelievable. How can we relate to these things? But we have to once again be very careful. How can we? I mean, a lot of people fall into men's deceives and men's lies instead of paying attention to what the Creator says in His Torah. So we have to be very careful. We bring this information to you. I'm not saying believe what I'm saying. I'm saying take the information, go home, search it, do your homework, because that's the good steward. All of us, myself to all of us. And so welcome to, especially to the group of the Luah HaTorah, the group of Torah calendar, the real Torah calendar group. Welcome. We have not have a Torah lesson live, but today is the first one, and we will have more in the future. But today I do want to make it special because as I mentioned, there's a lot of people that join us, and there's a lot of confusion going on still, even though you have a little bit of knowledge in the Torah. But we want you to understand that the Torah is real. The Torah is basically there telling us how we can. When we were talking in the very before, when we were talking about these things before, we were mentioning a lot of things. We were mentioning about the tekufot, the circuits, the marks, the season, and so forth. So let's start with this. Today, let's start with the first one. And Yahweh said in Leviticus or Vayikra 23 verse 4, these are the appointed times of Yahweh, set apart gatherings which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. Here in this verse, in this text, we see something huge, something very important, because here the Creator is telling us very direct, very straight up, these are my appointed times. If we understand what appointed times means, we're going to see a little bit later on the teaching, but here the Creator said, these are my appointed times, which you are to proclaim in their appointed times. He said it twice. He didn't say one time. He said twice. So we have to understand something very important. The Creator, is when He says more than one time, and this time is twice, he means it. That means he's very important. When He said 3 or 4 times, this is severe. But here, when He said it more than one time, that means He's very serious about it. And His appointed times are very important. Why? Because how can you celebrate the festivals if you don't know when to celebrate them? And it doesn't make any sense. A lot of excuses out there that they said that, oh, it's okay, when the Mashiach comes, he'll tell us. In the meantime, we'll just go along. It doesn't make any sense, because the Creator is telling us in this verse that these are the appointed times of Yahweh. We need to set them apart. We need to set them, apart, make them kadosh, make them, separate them from the rest. These are the appointed times of Yahweh. So therefore, the Creator said that we need to pay attention to these appointed times. Look at what the Job 38, 32, and 33. Job said these things. Do you bring out the constellations in its seasons? Do you see that? Do you know the laws of the heavens? These are very, very important questions, because contrary to popular belief, a lot of people, they go with the the moon calendar, the lunisolar calendar, which is the solar and the moon, and so forth. But if you notice over here, the Job is making a very huge remark here. He's pointed out again. Do you know how to bring the constellations in its seasons? This is a very important question. Do you know the laws of the heavens? We have to understand when are the seasons. We know there are 4 seasons, which is the Tekufot, or the season of Aviv, or spring, the season of summer. We are in summer. We just started summer. We know that there is a season of fall, or and we know there is a season of winter. So there are 4 seasons, and Job is bringing up the question. The Creator is asking Job, do you know when the constellations, the seasons and the constellations? Do you know when? You know where they are? You know how to bring them? You know how you can tell? And second is, do you know the laws? You know the mizvah of the heavens? These are very important questions. And some of these questions we convey that these seasons that are interact with what is called today the constellations. What you're looking at right now is the constellation of Orion. Here, the constellation of Orion, we see something very important, because this constellation of Orion, we see that how is it, as Job says, these are the constellations that are very, very indeed set up in a certain way that when we look at them, we know what it is. But if we know, how can we tell? That's the important thing. We know what does it mean through the scriptures, what these constellations are. What is it pointing to? What does it mean to me through the Torah? If you notice how the constellation of Orion is interact one and all together. But once again, we see how the Creator says these things. Do you know when these constellations are? You know, how can you tell the constellations and its seasons? This is very important. Each beginning of the month, it was common to say that the Shemesh, or the sun, is entering a new door. And we know there are 12 doors, or in other words, 12 portals or gates or constellations, and each one coming to each sequence for this solar month. And we have to understand that this is a solar month, not lunar month. Once again, what you see are the constellations, once again, that are put together, and the Creator has set these constellations in a certain manner that we have to understand that indeed the Creator made these things a way to understand how we can understand how the Creator talks through the scriptures. How can we decipher? How can we know that these things are true? And we can see that the Luah, HaTorah, the Torah calendar is based upon the constellations through the seasons. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the 12 constellations, we have to understand that these 12 constellations are 12 portals. How can we know that? It's because if you do research, every month that begins, it's on the Luah HaTorah, on the Torah calendar, is every portal. I want you to see this because it's very important. What you're looking at here, it is what every portal, every month, what is called today in Hebrew, or the new month, or Rosh Chodesh, is pointing at every portal. Every portal or every gate is opening a portal in the Shemayim. That's what is very important. When you go into the Torah, you see that the Creator said that do not ignore my Rosh Chodesh, or the head of the months, or the beginning of the months. Every month it has a Rosh Chodesh. Every month is a portal to every constellation. But what's more important is that what the Shemayim, what the heavens is trying to tell us, that every constellation, it derives that to every tribe of the sons of Yisra'il, our forefathers. Remember, it's not just our Jewish brothers, Judah, it's 12 constellations to 12 children of Yisra'il, 12 tribes of Yisrael. So this is very important because in the heavens, once again, is written the redemption of mankind, of Am Yisrael, of all of us, is the redemption of all of us in the Shemayim. But we have to understand it through the Torah, how we understand this. So once again, we can pretty much see that the Creator, the way He has set up these constellations is very important, because through the constellations we can actually understand, and I'm sure you're going to understand this, that through the Torah in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, 2, and 3, please read it. You will see how the Moshe set up the 12 tribes of Yisra'il. Each one of the tribes, they set it up very in order, and we can see it. Not only that, every tribe had this banner, and not only the banner, it says the name of the tribe. Of course, it was written in the name of the tribe, and also its sign, which sign the constellation of every tribe of Yisrael. Let's look at another concept. Remember when in the book of Bereshit, the book of Numbers, the book of Genesis, Bereshit, remember when Judah or Yehudah went to Tamara, and she wanted to have because she didn't have any descendants, she didn't have any seeds, because all the sons of Judah or Yehudah were dead. So Tamara says, I can't be like that. I need to continue this generation. So if you remember, that portion on the Torah says that Judah met this woman, and this woman, she wanted Judah to be with him. But Judah said, well, I don't have any money. He says, I don't have any money, but I can give you my sign. If you look at in the Hebrew, it says my sign and my staff. Which sign was it? His sign, because every sons of Jacob have, each one of them has a sign. The sign of the tribe of Judah, in this case, was a lion. So we have to understand that every son of Israel had a sign. Now we understand that every constellation is the sign of every sons of Yisra'il. So this is very huge, because once we understand the Torah, and then we understand how everything works on the Shammai and the heavens, then we understand how everything compiles, beautifully. So I want you to see this very important, and please do research. I'm bringing this information once again, but I want you to take notes. I want you to please do research, search it out, and it's out there. We're not making anything up. It's there in the scriptures. It's there in the Torah. It's just for us to do research. Once again, welcome. And those who just join us right now, we are of course in Facebook, but we are also on YouTube as well, simultaneously as we speak. So we're trying to advance as much as we can, trying to connect as much as we can everywhere, so everyone can have a viewing on these teachings that we are bringing. So if what you're seeing right now on the screen, it's the word Ab. If you look at the first one on top, it says Abi'il. Abi'il means Yahweh, or my Father is the Almighty. My Father is the Almighty. Below, if you notice, it says Abib. But then, if you notice, you will see this in every dictionary. The amazing thing is that the way the translators, in quote unquote, did this translation, it doesn't make any sense, because the translation is supposed to be Aleph, Bet, Yod, Bet. So in other words, it's supposed to be Abib, in other words. Okay, so the way they translate it, remember that A, B, or Aleph Bet means Ab means father. So in these translations that you are looking below, on circulated below, which says Abib, the way they use it, it says unused root. You see that? Mean to be tender, green, young, and that's the way they have given this this translation. But it doesn't make any sense because the word Ab means father. How can you tell, that is green ears if the word doesn't say that? It just doesn't compute in my mind. And I'm going to bring more verses so you can do research that these things are not make up. The translators did what they did, and they that's what is in this in the Strong's translations and so forth, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I want you to see this. The word, if you look up here in circular, you see the word Aleph Bet. You see that? It means father. Let's go back up a little bit. You see the Aleph Bet here on the where it says Abib? The same word. The same word is Aleph Bet Yod Bet. You see that? Abib. And the way they translate it is green ears. Doesn't make any sense. Why? Because we're going to see more verses that these things don't make any sense whatsoever. So look at this, the next verse. I know it's a little bit small, but I don't know if your screen is going to be a little bit bigger. But if you notice in the book of Vayikra 2:14, it says green ears. You see that? It says green. If you notice here, it says, and if you offer the meat offering to thy first fruits unto Yahweh, you should offer the meat offering to the first fruits. You see that? The first fruits of the green ears of corn. You see that? Ears of corn. But if you notice here in this verse, is basically telling you about the word Abib. But I want you to see, we're going to go back to that verse because that's not the verse I want you to see. This is what I want you to see in, we will go back into that one. But here, I want you to see this in the Strong 7488. 7488 is Ra'anan. Ra'anan means to be green. Do you see that? Verdant. By analogy, new. Figuratively, prosperous, green, flourishing. You see that? So we are looking at verses, verses or words in the Strongs that please look it up. We're not making anything up. I'm giving you the verse, the word. Look it up in the Strongs, and you will see that these verse are basically something that you are looking at, and it doesn't make any sense because the word Abib doesn't mean green ears. It means something else, and we will find out about that. So let's look another one, and another green also. Yerech is a Strong's 3418 in the sense of vacuity of color. Do you see that? Properly pallor, that is hence the yellowish green of young or sickly vegetation, concretely verdure. In other words, this is just could be a vegetable, could be anything that has the green. Usually is a tree or a plant, but here we can see a very concretely, very concrete evidence that the word Abib doesn't mean green ears, because you just look at what the green means and you're looking at two words in Hebrew that means that. So what does it mean to be Abib? We already know Ab means father, so the realization that Abib means something much more than green becomes apparent when we remember that the prophets and the apostle Shaul stated about the stars, or Besorah, or the good news. Below you can see Psalm 68, 4 and 5. So here, it means what we are looking at here in these words is basically that what they trying to imply that it means green, it actually doesn't mean that. It means something else. It means something more than what we already know. It means something that is encoded in the Torah, in the being, in the prophets, in the Brit Hadashah, but we just haven't found it yet. We'll find out. In the next verses, Psalm 68, look at what it means. 68 verse 4. Sing to Almighty, sing praises to His name. By His name, Yah, which is Yahweh, short for Yahweh, and exalt before Him. Father of the fatherless and a right ruling of widows, is Almighty in set apart dwelling. Now, I want you to see this very important here. If you notice here in verse 5, it says Father. And if you notice down there, which says set apart dwelling, those come one and two together. The Father and His dwelling place. In other words, His house. So what we're looking at here is that the word Abib, Ab means father, Bib means house. So it means the Father's house. The Father's house. Now we will find out why does it mean Abib, Father's house. There is something encoded here that we have not realized what we are dealing with, which is huge, because we already doing as it is. We just have to understand a better understanding about what Abib means and why is it so important. Why is it that the Creator set this beginning of the year, and why is it very important? How come we don't know about these things? And the simple reason is because our Jewish brothers didn't want to share this kind of information, and they have this information in their literature, and we will bring it to you. But once again, we can see through the scriptures that here the word Father is set up with a set apart dwelling, because he dwells in it. But we're not talking about Beit HaMikdash, or the house of prayer. We're talking about in the Shamayim, which is in the heavens. I want you to see this. If you go into the book of Devarim, or the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 1, if you notice, if what you're looking at here, the word Ha, Abib, do you notice here? Ha, Abib, it's in circular, appeared twice here in Devarim, or Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. If you look at where it says that you should serve the sign of Abib, but it doesn't say that. It should say the sign of the Abib, not Abib. The Abib. You notice that? Why does it make a remark with Ha-Abib? Ha-Abib. Because remember this, and every time you see the word Abib, it's like for instance, we're not going to say the month of Abib, or it's supposed to be the month, or each month. Each month has a name, of course. But when you said, when you mention a name, we're supposed to mention an event. In this case, we're looking at an event, not a name. It has a name, but it's mainly an event. Yahweh, our supreme authority, the Father, is the Almighty who travels through the heavens or the stars. It is His house, His habitation, of course. This account is symbolic because the Father is telling us through the story in the constellations of His creation, in which that we sung praises. The heavens declare the esteem of Yahweh, and the firmament shew His handiwork. Day unto day utter speech, and night unto night shew knowledge. And you can see this, what Tehillim 19 verse chapter 19 verse 1 through 3. Remember too that this happens to David, David's heavenly song, which Shaul or Paul quoted concerning the Mashiach, and about what he has been heard. And we will see this verse a little bit later. But here, what we're looking at here is something very important. We are looking at that there is more to what we already know. Remember that what Tehillim, or Psalm 19 verse 1, the Shemayim declares the works of Yahweh. How can we declare? Because everything is written in the Shemayim about the redemption of mankind. Everything in the Shemayim is written about all of us, about how can we redeem. Everything is redeemed. Everything is written there. So what we have to understand is that when we understand the concept of Abib, then we have to understand what the Creator is telling us. I want you to see this, and I want you to do your research in the Orthodox Jewish Bible. It says these words. 16, what we just seen, 16, the Devarim or Deuteronomy 16:1, it says, Beshomer of the month of Abib. Do you notice that here where it says the springtime? Beshomer of the month of Abib. And in parentheses, the springtime. When is the springtime? That's my question. When is springtime? Springtime is basically in the Tekufot, or what we call it, what we already know, what it is called today, the equinox. The Tekufot, or the marker of the equinox. The equinox marks the beginning of the springtime. That's why it doesn't say spring, it says a springtime. It's telling you an event. That event happens to be the springtime, the equinox. The question arises from time to time, if the Yisra'il's calendar system was really solar, where does the term equinox appear in the Bible? It doesn't. Good question, because a legitimate one, the answer is the equinox does not appear in the scriptures verse, and the question is why? Because the term is Latin in the scriptures, and wherein the Greek and Hebrew terminology, what we call today the spring equinox, and is written in the scriptures as, you see that, as Ha-Abib, the Abib. The term in the scriptures, the term in the scriptures is not Abib. Abib happens to be, as we saw it earlier, we saw the green ears. The green ears is not basically the green ears. It's the month that gives the barley. Why? Because there is not ripening yet. It's not ready to do anything else, but it's green still. The barley still is green. It's the time where the Creator said, this is the beginning of everything. This is the birth of everything. It's not just the barley. It's a lot of plants that are being born basically on this time. And this has a lot to do with the Mashiach himself. In another teaching, we are going to bring the birth of Mashiach that has a lot to do with with Abib 1 and the relationship between those two. And I didn't want to bring this today because this is another teaching that is going to take a little bit longer on what we're teaching today. So it's going to be a separated teaching on the Mashiach's birth. What we call it today, what is known today, is known today is that the Mashiach was born in the 7th month in the what is called the Feast of Sukkot. But it doesn't make any sense chronologically speaking, because we have to understand is the spring festivals are the first event of our Mashiach, and the fall festivals are the second event, or the return of the Mashiach when it comes. So we cannot assume that his birth was on the 7th month, because as I mentioned before, this is going to be a separate teaching that I'm going to bring text after text through the Hebrew and so forth about what we're talking about right now. So this is going to be a separated teaching. But continuing with this, the equinox, what we call it today, happens to be the word Ha'abib, because he is telling you an event that is actually happened. It is not until the sojourn of Babylon that the Israelites adopted the pagan names for the month. The Talmud candidly admits that the name of the months came out with them from Babylon. And you can please look it up in Jerusalem Talmud, the Rosh Hashanah 1256d. You can please look it up, that we're not making this up, we're giving you reference where you can look up at these things, that our Jewish brothers, they have a Babylonian calendar, that they adopted it in the exile from Babylon. And not only that, they adopted the calendar, but they adopted also their pagan names. And remember with the Torah, we already had this conversation before this teaching, that the Creator said, do not mention by your mouth the name of other Elohim or demons. And it is profoundly and ironically to mention, or to say the least, that our Jewish brothers, they have a pagan calendar and also they have a pagan names. So ironically speaking. So continually here, with these verifiable facts brought to the surface, it can be concluded that, as originally intended at the time of the Mosiah or Mashiach, Moshe writings, the word Abib referred to the spring. It also literally means father's house. You see that? The father's house, symbolically of the heavens, constellations, the star at the spring. You see that? The stars at the spring. While the Abib means the event of the springtime. You see that? Which we shall see precisely designed with the equinox, as we already know it. So we know that the springtime, or Ha-Abib, means the father's house, but it specifically means the beginning of the rest of the months, which opens a doorway to the Shemayim. It is no surprise, because it is well known, it's authenticated, that the Tekufot of Abib happens to be the enthronement of Yahweh Sevaot, the enthronement of Yahweh, our Creator. All Hebrews manuscripts texts show that the book of Devarim, or Deuteronomy, correctly reads, observe the month of the Abib, and keep the Pesach unto Yahweh thy Almighty. For in the month of the Abib, Yahweh the Almighty brought thee forth out of the Egypt by night. The other scriptures verses cited in verse 9, but it contains Ha-Abib, that is also read as the month of the Abib. Do you see that? It doesn't say the month of Abib. It says the month of the Abib with D-H-E, the Abib. You see that? So he's making an event here that is not a name basically, but it's basically an event that happens to be on the equinox, or what we know, what we already know it. The word tekufat means revolution. You can look it up in the Strong's 8622. A revolution, that is the sun's course of time, lapse, circuit, come about, and end. And all this relates to the markers. The markers of a year is basically what is pointing each season. The beginning of each season has a period of time. When that season finishes, it starts another season, another period of time, and so forth, until the whole cycle ends and it starts all over again. And this is what the entire scriptures talks about. It doesn't mention anything but the cycles of the seasons as we know it. We're going to give a few examples, and these few examples are basically relates to the Torah. I can give you verses in Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 6, 7, and 8, especially 7 and 8 of Bereshit, where it says that Noah was 600. You see that? In chapter 8, it says Noah was 601. If you compile the whole thing together, it was 1 year exactly that his birth. So in other words, how can we know that the tekufot are the way it is 1 year exactly? Is through our men's birthdays, our tekufats, our circuits. The start of each earth seasons are tekufot, are markers. So when the whole cycle, or the whole cycle, the tekufot are done, are ended, our cycle is completely, that is 1 year. And not only as season, but also as our birthdays, because I can tell you, I was born in October 24th. Next year is going to be 1 year complete. The same day is going to be 1 year. Here, what you're looking at is the entrance of the house of prayer, the Beit HaMikdash. Here, the light being spring one, here enters in the spring equinox, and it enters right in through the Beit HaMikdash, inside where the Aron, or the Ark of the Covenant. But if you can see it very vividly, that this was the entrance of the house of Yahweh. Not only that, remember this, it means the Father's house. Do you see that? Abi means the Father's house. And now we're compiling everything together. Now we understand why Abib is so important, because the beam of light enter in Abib 1, and it enters exactly in the house, in the Father's house, exactly as we have been talking for many years before. In these latter days, we are using the technology to make it clear, to make it so you guys can see it with your eyes, how everything works. And not only that, we can actually see it through the with everything you can do research, and you can pretty much, we'll find out that these things are very, very true. Isaiah, or Yeshayahu 66 verse 1, look at what it says here. So says Yahweh, heaven is my throne. Do you see that? And the earth is the footstool on my feet. Where is that house that you should build for me, or where is that place of my rest? But here's what I want to emphasize on this verse is the heaven. Yahweh say, heaven is my throne. What we said earlier, that Abib 1 is the enthronement of Yahweh Sebaot. Abib 1 is the enthronement of Yahweh Sebaot. So this is very important indeed, because here you can pretty much see that the Creator is pretty much telling us that through this tekufot, through these seasons, the Creator is marking His place, marking His way. Here you can see in front of the Beit HaMikdash, or the house of prayer, how the beam of light enter into the Aron. And it's amazing, because our forefathers saw this. Solomon understood this concept. Moshe understood this concept. After the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, or the first temple, everything was lost. And it was because of the disobedience of our forefathers, the time and the seasons were lost. And that's why, we just barely understanding in these latter days, through our Mashiach, how he came to restore not only the Father's name, his name of course, but also the timing. The timing, remember that before the Mashiach comes, all things have to be restored, including the Luah, HaTorah, the Torah Caldr. So this is very important. Here you can see the constellation of Aries. This is the spring equinox. You see, notice that it usually is on the secular calendar is on March 21st, but here it marks Aviv. Here marks the marker of the beginning of the year. If you notice here in Jerusalem, very important indeed. Now, what you're looking at here, the entrance of every tekufot. If you notice right in the middle is exactly how the beam light enters or rises up here on the equinox of Abib 1. And in your right, on the left side, I'm sorry, if you notice the solstice of summer, in other words, for instance, right now we are on the solstice of on the season of summer. The solstice just started like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and so here that's what the marker was. So when the 3 months ends, it goes back again to the middle where it says equinox. That will be the second mark, the third marker, which happens to be the season of fall, the equinox, or tekufo of fall. And at the end, it ends in the right side with the solstice of winter. And then it ends the complete cycle. So I want you to see this because this is very worth to look at it. The way I'm looking at, we're looking at in front of the Beit Hamidash or the house
and
of
each
prayer,
one of the
how
creatures
the beam
pauses
of light
in the
enters
entrance
in each
of
one
the
the
house of
seasons
prayer.
of
Tekofolds
every month.
do the
See
same
that?
thing.
Each one of the
Pause
seasons
in each
enters
tekofold or
the
equinox
season
in the
of
entrance
the
of the
spring,
house of prayer.
okay, the season of Aviv. It enters in summer,
The Beit
okay.
Hamikdash or the
This is
house of
Aviv.
prayer.
Now you're
And
looking at
each one of the
summer,
creatures
okay,
pauses in
and
the
then it goes
entrance of the
to
house of prayer. Tekofolds do the same thing.
here is
Pause
the season
in
of
each
the
tekofold
tekufot
or
of
equinox
fall, and
in
then
the entrance
other
of
one
the
will be
house
the
of prayer.
season of winter. So here is something very important, because now we can look at these things and we have to understand that these markers are very important indeed, because it's literally telling us that the Creator made this for a reason, and this is to know the right timing. Now, the question is, where is the moon in all this? Nowhere to be found. The moon is not a factor to reckon the times and the seasons of the Creator on the Luah HaTorah, on the Torah calendar. So therefore, it's basically disregard, because the Torah does not teach any of it about the moon reckoning, because there is nowhere in the scriptures where it does say that the moon is a factor to reckon the times and the seasons. Nowhere to be found. So this is very important. If you notice here, what we were looking at earlier in we were looking at earlier on the how the beam of light enter into the house of prayer. Look at what it says in Ezekiel 10:14, and each one had the face. Each one of them has a face. The face of a cherub or an angel. The second, a face of a man. The third, the face of a lion, and the fourth, the face of an eagle. It says in the verse 19 the same thing. But look at what it says in verse 19. And it stood at the door of the east gate. You see that? And at the house of Yahweh, and the steam of the Almighty of Yisra'il was about them. You see that? Here, beloved brothers, this is very important, because here you are looking at the tekofots, each one of them. If you notice here on your left side, if you notice that each one of these tekofots are the constellations. Each one of the constellations has a marker. The spring marker, the summer marker, the fall marker, and the last one, the winter marker. Exactly as the scripture says, that this is very important. And not only that, in verse 19, here in 19, it says they stood at the door of the east gate. They stood, they paused there. Each one of the markers does the same thing. Now the house of prayer is no longer there, but they used to do that. Solomon built exactly because he already knew the Creator gave him knowledge how he needed to create the house of prayer, the first Beit Hamikdash, the first temple, how he needed to build it. And it was not only for sacrifices, for sacrificial purposes. And that wasn't only for that. It was also to mark the seasons and the calendar and the festivals. Remember that the festivals were celebrated in Jerusalem. It wasn't celebrated anywhere else. They needed to come to Jerusalem to celebrate the festivals. At that time when the temple stood, but it was destroyed, and the Mashiach said that, I'll tell you, woman, that you have that mountain and we have this one, but I'll tell you the time will come that everywhere you will worship the Creator. So the Mashiach already foretold the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. So for the same reason, that's what the Creator has given us these markers to understand the seasons and the times. In Ezekiel 1:10, it says the same thing. In Revelation 4:7, we can see there's another reference that you can see it too. And this is, we're giving you so much information. I want you to please take it and search for it because it's there. Wayikra, or Leviticus 23:1 says, Yahweh spoke to Moshe saying, speak to the children of Yisra'il, say to them, the appointed times to Yahweh in which you are to proclaim in their appointed times. My appointed times are these. Look what it says. These are the appointed times of Yahweh, the set apart gatherings which you are to proclaim in their appointed times. Why did I bring this up? Why did I bring it? It's because we have to understand something very important that is encoded in these verses. Here, if you look in chapter, what you read, 16, verse 1, please read it, the whole chapter. But please read the first 4. How does the Creator start numbering the festivals? He started first with the Shabbat. With the Shabbat is, I don't know if you knew that, but the Shabbat is a festival. And the reason why, the question is why? The answer is very simple. Is because in every festival there is a Shabbat. The first day of Pesach is a Shabbat. And the last one of unleavened bread is a Shabbat. Shavuot is a Shabbat. Yom Teruach is a Shabbat. Yom Kippurim is a Shabbat. Sukkot is Shabbat. The last day, the last and the very last festival is Shemini Atzeret. It's a Shabbat. So the Creator starts with Shabbat. But something encoded here that is very important. And I want you to see this. But first I want you to see these verses. Ecclesiastes 1:5, the sun also rises and the sun sets, and it hurries back to the place where he arose. Here we see something very important because the Creator, again, he says again that these things are very important. Look at what it says in the same verse, same chapter, Wayikra 23, verse 3. It says, 6 days work is done, but the 7th day is a Shabbat or rest. You see that? The Shabbat or rest. And a lot of people ask us, why does it start with the Shabbat? Simply because every festival has its Shabbat. But look at what it says in the same chapter, 23:32. From evening to evening, do you see that? You should observe your Shabbat. You see that? In the festivals, there are Shabbats. We already know that. Now, when the Shabbat starts, it says here, very simple, very clear, that from evening to evening. Do you notice that here? Doesn't ring any bells? That doesn't say from moon to moon. You see that? It says from evening to evening, evening to evening. Here, it says something very clear. Here it says that the Creator says that these festivals are embedded something very important. And this, what is encoded here, it's what is called today, what we know is the sunset to sunset. The sunset to sunset. Here, I want you to see something very important.
But the earth abide forever. The sun also riseth, and the sun goes down, and hastes to his place where he arose.
If you notice here that the sun rises and sun sets again. If you notice that it doesn't say on the previous verse that we just read, it doesn't say from moon to moon. It says very clear, from evening to evening you should observe the Shabbat. So here we can see another evidence that the scriptures are very clear that every festival is from sunset to sunset, not from moon sighting to moon sighting. Very clear indeed. The constellations that the Creator has set upon for us to look upon are very true indeed. Genesis 1:4 says, let the lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. Let them be for signs in the appointed times. You see that? 4 things. Signs, appointed times, for days and years. 4 things are very important here. It mentioned 4 things, but it doesn't mention one thing that a lot of people miss here in this verse. It doesn't say month. It does not say month. It says, once again, I want you to see it. It says signs, appointed times or seasons or moedim, days and years. And the question is why the month is not embedded here in this text in Bereshit or Genesis chapter 1. Simply because in the seasons are the months, are the seasons are embedded, or I should say the months are embedded in the seasons. We know that there are 4 seasons. Each season has, logically, it has 3 months, and we'll see it next. We know that there are 4 seasons. The season of Aviv, spring, the season of summer. We are in summer, by the way. We are in the season of fall, and the last one is the season of winter. In Bereshit 8:22, all the days of the earth is the seed and the harvest. You see that? The cold and the heat, the summer and the spring should not cease by day or night. You see that? Here it says another clear indication that after the flood, it says all the days it will still be. Read the whole chapter, I just summarized it. But it said there's still going to be. That means prior to the Mabul, to the flood, the Creator still had the same seasons. Again, he restores it again after the flood, the seasons of the year. Now, does the Moshe speak to the appointed times of Yahweh to the children of Yisra'il? I want you to see this. The word Ya'ad means fixed time, set upon, fix upon, or season. This word, this rooted word, is something very important, because here this word is telling you that the Creator is telling you that every season, the seasons of the year are appointed, are fixed. They won't move at all. And that's why I want you to see it next. If you notice here, the solstice and the equinox is for Jerusalem. Okay? And the reason why I bring this, the solstice and the equinox for Jerusalem, is because here we can see in 2017, and I want you to see a little bit clear next. In 2017, March the 20th, mark what is called today the 4 seasons. The Tekufo, the month of 1, marked the season of the spring. The 2nd marked the solstice, the summer solstice. The Tekufo, the fall, the equinox, and the last one, the Tekufo, of winter's solstice. But here, if you notice, in 2017, the first Aviv has 3 months, and these 3 months are compound of 3 months, each one of them of 31 days. And here, if you notice, and please, I want you to go onto, timeanddate.com or any place, and you can see pretty much that what I'm telling you is accurate. We're not making anything up. It's written in the Shemayim. All we got to do is just, follow what the Shemayims are saying, or how the Creator has it set this up for all of us. Here you can see a clear indication that this date, 2017, March the 20th, you see the time that fall, the equinox at 12:28. Here, a clear indication that this date or this day had it begin Bib 1, the marker or the Bib. Here, the marker, the beginning of the year, marked 3 months. But if you notice, for example, if you go into the Luah HaTorah on this month, you will see that it started exactly on time. Now, I want you to see the next one. Summer started on June the 21st. And exactly how we started the summer season. We started the 4th month, 5th month, 6 months is going to be 3 months of summer. June the 21st happens to be the Rosh Chodesh, which is the Tekufot of summer. 3 months are done, and then we go into the season of fall, which is the September 22, and then we start another Rosh Chodesh, which is another equinox, the second equinox, not solstice, but equinox of, of fall. Here in the season of fall, here is another 3 months, and here are 3 months of 30 days. And that's the season marker, okay? We're not making this up. This is the season of fall. September 22 is the Tekufah of fall. Now we come to the last one. December 21 is the 10th month, which is a Rosh Chodesh. And it marks exactly the season of winter. So we can clearly see all these seasons. All these 4 seasons are markers. We're not making this up. If you compare it, because I know this came to my attention, to what about the Enoch's calendar? Please compare the Enoch's calendar. If they said that they start, and by the way, they say they start in an equinox on Aviv, they usually start on Wednesday, on the middle of the week. It doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you, because if Aviv falls, the marker falls on I don't know, Tuesday or Thursday or Friday or Shabbat or first day of the week, what is called today Sunday, that's the way it was marked. We can adjust days. That's the way the Creator set the seasons of the year. So we cannot just pick and choose. It doesn't work that way. That's what the Creator said. These are my appointed times. All you need to do is just follow how it's been set up in front of you. So that's what they follow. They follow the middle of the week, and not only that, they follow the rest, which is 364 days. But the amazing thing is that the one thing they missed here is that they missed these seasons. These seasons are the markers that you are looking at. The winter, right? What you see, fall, summer, spring. These are the markers of the seasons. We haven't missed anything at all, because that's what the Torah says. The Tekufah of the month 1 is the Aviv, or the springtime, or the equinox. It is given the name of the Father's house. You see that? The Father's house, as a symbolic divine announcement, the first entrance of the whole story of our redemption or salvation, which is a story declared in the heavens. If you look in Psalm 19:1 and 3, as Shaul connects it with the salvation of Mashiach Yahushua. If you please take a look at those verses, please. Because of time, I don't want to read it, but please write it down. Read it in your own time. And these are the verses that we can pretty much connect and make sense of it. That this is declaring the Shemayim, the redemption of mankind. All festivals of the Creator are basically, if you put it in front of you, are the markers, are the redemption of Yisra'il, of all of us. He's been there the entire time. Once again, I'm very happy that we brought this forth, and hopefully the Creator can help us to have a better understanding about the Luah HaTorah. We will have more discussions about this. We will bring more evidence through the scriptures, because there is so much, which is because of time. Time is always basically our enemy about these things, but little by little we'll have more understanding. I urge you to please watch the Torah calendar second part. I am currently working on the first part of the video, which you guys, some of you have not seen, and I am literally updating that calendar. I mean that video, the first part, which is coming soon. So with the second is all pretty much very understandable as well. We have literature about the Torah calendar. Please feel free to write us through Messenger or Facebook, and we'll be happy to, or send us your email so we can send you the literature free of charge. Of course, we don't charge a cent because the Torah is free for all of us. So thank you once again. Shalom lecha, shalom aleichem to all of you. Thank you very much for being in tune to watch this broadcast in YouTube and also in Facebook. And we'll be talking again. The Father Yahweh bless you and keep you in everything that we do in Mashiach's name, Yeshua, Amen. Thank you. Shalom Aleichem.
Adat Netzer Yisra'il presenta